All right, just had the seventh debates. Andrew Yang was not there and he was missed. A few issues I'll mention that were really in his wheelhouse. Bernie Sanders brought up $15 minimum wage. That accelerates the automation of jobs. The freedom dividend is much better than that. The issue of climate change came up and how important it is, but nobody brought up nuclear energy, of course, because Yang wasn't there. And government subsidy of childcare came up because childcare is so expensive. So what do we need? We need government subsidy. We need free universal infant care. So once again, we have politicians coming up with these massive government bureaucracies that where you would dump so much money into them and very little would come out. And does anybody have any kind of confidence in the quality of government subsidized childcare? Because all this money going in after the bureaucracy, after the greed, after the corruption, after the incompetence, after the mismanagement, how much of that money is actually going to go into these child cares? And this gets into the freedom dividend. Give every adult 18 and over $1,000 a month. That will help them stay at home with the kids if that's what they want to do, put people more in a place to do that, or give them money to spend on healthcare, let them better support healthcare. And this gets into the whole college debate as well. Well, 2/3 of Americans don't go to college. Give them that freedom dividend, and they can decide if they want to spend that money on college, and if it's community college or 4-year state, whatever that may be. When it comes to college, I thought Klobuchar had the best take on it, saying we have to match education with the economy. What are all the jobs coming up? So with the population getting older, obviously, nursing profession, older care profession, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of positions open. So let's match our education with all these opportunities. As she put it, there's not going to be a shortage of MBAs. There's going to be a shortage of healthcare workers and many other industries as well. So that was a lot of common sense as far as that. When the debate started, the war, foreign policy came up, of course, because we've had these situations with recent situations with Iran. So Sanders attacked Biden because Biden voted for the disastrous war in Iraq. So in our generation, the worst decision the United States has made was the war in Iraq. Biden voted for that. So he's attacked on this debate. If he does become the nominee, and all the polls are saying that that's the way it's going, he will take that liability when he goes against Trump, that he voted for the worst decision that this country made. So he kind of danced around it. But other than that, when some of that conversation went on as far as what we should do in the Middle East, Warren was asked, should we have troops there at all? And Warren was like, no, we should pull all our troops out. And Biden had a more intelligent, I'd say more sophisticated, knowledgeable answer saying, no, we still have small amounts in there, but they're special forces. And they coordinate with allies in the region. So that was, I thought, a much better answer to try to keep stability and intelligence and fight terror, rather than just saying, no, we're just going to absolutely pull everyone out. So there he is strong. Overall, Biden wasn't horrible. And so for Biden, if he doesn't have any major gaffes, then that's a good day, even though sometimes he kind of stumbled around and bumbled around here and there in answering things. Question of trade came up. So there are big trade deals that are coming up that most of the people on stage support, except for Bernie Sanders. So they talked about these new trade deals and how they're going to be improvements, but then attacked Trump on the trade war. But is the trade war what caused these improvements in the trade deals? So it seems like they're trying to criticize them, but then yet supporting these new trade deals, kind of trying to have their cake and eat it too, I guess. When it came to the two women on the stage, Elizabeth Warren was pretty powerful, saying there's only two people on each stage that are undefeated in every single race, and that was her and the other Klobuchar on the stage. Bernie Sanders later said, well, wait a minute, I beat a Republican, but that was like 30 years ago. But that was pretty good. Questions on healthcare. So this is where you have the difference, and they did go back and forth like they have in past debates between going back to the Affordable Care Plan, the Obamacare, rescuing that, resurrecting that, investing in that, and having that option, and keeping employment, keeping the private healthcare sector. And of course, Sanders is Medicare for all, get rid of the private sector. And then came an attack that I wasn't expecting from Klobuchar, where Klobuchar said, basically attacked Sanders, saying if you go to a casino and you're betting on a wheel, you don't bet on a number that isn't there. And just saying that the Medicare for all, 2/3 of the Senate don't support it, the Congress doesn't support it, governors don't support it. So basically, you're not going to go anywhere with this. And then she was more of the Affordable Care Act. Pete Buttigieg is also for this bringing back the Affordable Care Plan and forcing people to pay for it. So if you don't have insurance, you are going to have that tax if you're not paying into it. If you don't select a plan, he is going to bring that back. And he is asked about it. And it's like, well, we can't have people just not paying into the system until they need it, which makes sense. So he had a pretty good answer on that. Going on, Elizabeth versus Sanders. So, of course, the media is going to ask, okay, Bernie Sanders, what about this coming from Elizabeth Warren that you said a woman couldn't be president? So Bernie Sanders said 30 years ago, I said a woman can be president. Hillary Clinton actually won by the population vote by 3 million votes. I would never say that a woman couldn't be president. So Elizabeth Warren is apparently saying he did. And when it comes to those two, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, who's the one telling the truth? Who has more credibility? Obviously, Bernie Sanders has way more credibility on being honest. I mean, people who think he's a crazy socialist or whatever, they can say, oh, I think he's delusional. I don't hear anybody saying Bernie Sanders is a liar. I think definitely he's pretty much every single one of these debates, he's the same guy saying the same thing. So I have to believe that Sanders is saying the truth. I don't know if Elizabeth Warren just heard something that wasn't said, or is just trying to get some traction, or just is flat out saying something that isn't true, because judging from her history, we know that she could just say things that aren't true. Let's see. We talked about childcare workers, talked about infant care. So Elizabeth Warren once again brought up the wealth tax. So this is an income tax. This is tax on what you own. But the thing is, you can have a lot of wealth without having a lot of income. For example, you can have a business that's not doing well, but you have very expensive equipment and property and factories, but you're just not getting a lot of revenue. But then if you have to pay tax on those assets, you're going to be done. You're going to have to close up your business. And that's why this wealth tax has failed in other countries where it's been tried. It just hasn't worked. And plus, it would just probably be struck down by the court as being unconstitutional. So I don't think that's the way to go. I think we really need to focus on an income tax when you spend the money. And I believe we need to have that estate tax, death tax as well. And of course, she's going, oh, just 2 cents for the wealthy, and we can just pay for this laundry list of things. Just doesn't seem just doesn't seem truthful. It just doesn't seem realistic. And on this healthcare debate, since she changed her position, since she used to be healthcare for all and then changed it, now when she talks about healthcare, she really lost a lot of credibility as far as that debate. Something else I wanted to bring up. So these candidates brought up the black and brown communities, and it's kind of weird to see these elitist white people saying black and brown communities. And to me, it just sounds degrading. It's like you're talking about them like they got special needs. I mean, why not just call everybody Americans? And everybody wants the same things. We want safe neighborhoods. We want good schools. We want opportunity. Why not talk about everything that brings us together? And it just seems kind of divisive. Klobuchar, in her closing statement, said we need to get racial justice. What does that even mean? Are you going to dig up dead Democratic KKK members and beat them? I mean, you're going to get revenge on dead people? I mean, how does that even work? And I guess this is just kind of this divisive separating us. Even with climate change, they talked about, oh, here's a farm that was affected by this flood. They can't go back. How do you help these people? Well, specifically, we need to help the black and the brown people. It's like, well, don't we need to help Americans that are affected by the flood, no matter how far their ancestors live from the equator? I don't know. This identity politics to me is just getting annoying, and I don't think they're winning with the American people with this kind of rhetoric. Closing statements. Tom Steyer said something kind of interesting. Trump is kicking Americans in the face. So, okay, Trump is going around kicking Americans in the face, and he's not going to put up with that. All right, going a little bit with each candidate. Joe Biden, like I said, didn't do terrible. For Joe, no major gaffes. That's a good day for Joe. Pete Buttigieg was okay, but not really strong. Amy Klobuchar did well, except for that last statement in her closing remarks. Bernie Sanders was the same Bernie Sanders. He is sharper than Joe Biden. Joe Biden occasionally bumbles around even when he's having a good debate, but Bernie Sanders, he doesn't blink. He's straight to the point. He's sharp. Same message, definitely consistent. On climate change, he did mention the Green New Deal, which he thinks is a good thing. But if you actually read the Green New Deal, a lot of it has nothing to do with climate change. It's really about government take over the economy. I'll probably put together a separate video on that. Tom Steyer, CNN asked him the tough questions like, you got $1.6 billion from working in the coal, oil, and gas industry, so this is how you got all this money. So he's like, well, yeah, but then 10 years ago, I shifted and I went against fossil fuels. Well, isn't that convenient that after putting over $1 billion in the bank, then you decided to be against it? And then later on, he was bragging about this great business that he created, and that because then he was asked about these millions and millions of dollars of his own money he's putting in these ads. Basically, he bought his way to the stage today, and now after, oh, well, I made this $1.6 billion, but then, oh, now I'm against it. Then he's bragging about this company he built. So, I don't know, to me, kind of comes across as a fraud. Then Elizabeth Warren, I don't think had a great night. I don't think anybody believes her when she says Bernie Sanders said a woman could never be president. And I think just going back on the Medicare for all and these, other lies, and of course the biggest one saying that she was a Native American, I just don't know how much trust. And occasionally she starts telling those stories about growing up and raising two kids, and you're hearing these stories and it's like, did this really happen? I don't know if she has any credibility at this point. So we'll see what happens. I don't think this is going to move the polls at all. I think Joe Biden had the lead going in. He's going to have the lead going out. And as everything's looking at right now, he will get the nomination. For me, I think Andrew Yang by far is the strongest candidate of any of these people. Really wanted to see him on the stage today, but didn't happen. Might happen in February, but his poll numbers just have to do tremendously greater for him to have any kind of chance in this. So we'll see what happens. This is Jim Wall. Thanks for watching. Until next time.
Cisco, do we have to leave all our good friends now?
Only until next time, Pancho. Adios, amigos.